from the point of view of neuroscience, doing something physically and thinking something has the same effect on the brain. Your brain can't distinguish between you imagining something happening and you physically doing something. The same parts of the brain work. And because, you're working with, from a scientific point of view, you're working with the neural connections in your brain and neural pathways and all of this kind of thing. And the way your brain works is dependent on the habits that you've developed. In other words, it works according to how you've trained it. And it works according to habit. And it works in relation to what's happened in the past and bases everything on this. And we have a strong kind of habit of regarding this idea of me as being something stable, solid, and concrete. But when you begin to sort of examine the nature of what you think this I, this me is, then you begin to discover that it's not quite what you thought it was. At the moment, we consider ourselves to be our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions. And this is a very strong habit. But if we start to imagine ourselves as having the qualities of mind itself, and if we imagine ourselves to be in a pure form, and we use our speech in a positive way, and we begin to think in a positive way, and we begin to think of our body in a different way. A body that's kind of imbued with qualities that we admire and that we would like to have, like be able to help people without distinction, be able to kind of speak to people in a way that's meaningful, our minds begin to operate in a much more meaningful way. Then that's the purpose of the practice in the Vajrayana. And so the Vajrayana we already know now is the practice aspect. And the methods that are used are very powerful. And everything within the structure of the practice is designed for you to be acting in a positive way. And what we are trying to do is relate to the qualities associated with the practice, although the main one is compassion, but each has different aspects, and each of us are like psychologically different, and so we'll feel attracted to certain practices, or they'll have more meaning for us, and we'll feel that we want to practice this one more than another one because of a psychological identification with this practice. And so, in order to overcome the mistaken way that we perceive things, and in order to overcome the constant kind of influence that our collective consciousnesses and mind states perpetuate, we counteract this by developing the practice. And it weakens. It weakens the hold that this has on us, and enables us to kind of begin to see things slightly differently and experience things slightly differently. And so we're kind of replacing those negative habits with the positive habits. And so instead of having mistaken perception or impure perception, then we begin to develop the habit of pure perception. In other words, we are training our minds to see things the way that they actually are, as opposed to the way that we think they are. And from that perspective, if you like, we already assume, from the Vajrayana perspective, that those qualities already exist within you. It's like you're a Buddha and you don't know it. You know? I mean, that's actually the case, but it's difficult to believe that to begin with, you know, with our ordinary perception of things. But from a Vajrayana perspective, everything in your mind is coming from mind itself. And the only thing that's stopping you from experiencing this is this overlay of habit, if you like, you know? So everything arises from that and goes back to that. So it's like you begin to understand that the insubstantiality of thought, of what's happening in our mind. And so we imagine ourselves to be insubstantial, physically. And this is like you've created an insubstantial thought by imagining yourself to be the medicine Buddha made of light and you can see both sides at the same time, you can see through, you know, and if you understand how your mind works, then you can look at the medicine Buddha from above or below or each side or wherever you want, you know, because you can place your awareness wherever you want, you know, you can, you know. You can even go for a walk around the medicine Buddha if you want, you know. Better to go that way. But at the moment, you know, we all that we see is like the things that afflict us, you know. So I was very interested in that word. And there's a list of things which it refers to, you know. But like an affliction is something that we put upon ourselves, you know. And we have all kinds of thoughts and all kinds of problems and all kinds of suffering. And we even have a bigger problem, and that is that we don't like some of our thoughts, and we don't like to suffer. So on top of the suffering, we have so in the Theravadan tradition they call that the two arrows, you know, you're suffering, and then you don't like the suffering. So in the Vajrayana they say the suffering of suffering. Yeah. But at the same time, this mind itself is there, but we just can't recognize it. And it's kind of insubstantial and clear, and all of the different qualities are already there. And we just have to become aware of them. And whatever's passing through your mind is passing through the kind of the spaciousness of your mind. which is one of its qualities. I mean, spaciousness that's like boundless, immeasurable.